Welcome, Pablo. Come on out.
How are we doing? Yeah? This is so cool being in LA. I hadn't been here in a long time. By the way, I want to thank the people at Dribbble. They put together such an amazing show. And this place, look at this place. How beautiful is this? It's kind of intimidating from this side. It's so big, and it's just like, makes me a little bit nervous. We're gonna do fine. So, yes. And again, just wanted to thank Dribbble, and also thank you for being here. And just I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be here. And yeah, so as Dan was saying, my name is Pablo. Hola, soy Pablo, diseñador. Now say it with me, diseñador. Okay, again, diseñador. Love it. Now all the women, diseñadora. There you go. We can just keep going. Just a Spanish class today. I'm down for that. So I was actually going to talk about comics. Probably if you read the description, it said something about like comics and product design. But, and this is a big but, we're actually going to be talking about, wow, that's a big giant but. Okay, we're going to be talking about accessibility. Yeah, you just like 180 turn there. We're gonna keep it practical with some steps and tips, focus on web design. Don't worry, I still have some comics in there, put it there. So just first things first, what am I actually talking about, and what is this whole thing about? Digital accessibility refers to building digital content and applications that can be used by a wide range of people, including individuals who have visual, auditory, motor, and cognitive disabilities. So the Wcag, which is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, have 4 principles, which is like you want to make things on the web to be perceivable, which means that the information in the UI must be presentable to users in a way that they can perceive it. It's pretty obvious once you're like, okay, yeah, perceivable. It's operable, understandable, and this means that that actually the content is laid out in a way that is obvious, and also that it's robust. So I told you there were going to be some comics, so let's just start with a story time, okay? Before we get deep into technical accessibility stuff. So in the year 2000, yes, I'm old. In the year 2000, who remembers Conan? I think now it's in the year 3000. Well, I used to work as I started working as a designer for a company that it was more like a print shop. So we focus on like large format prints, like banners, decals on cars, like indoor and outdoor signs in stores. There were a lot of clients that just wanted like flames on their cars. Just the funny thing is that the cheapest cars, like clients with the cheapest cars wanted some flames just to make them look faster, I don't know. And I will actually put them. I was the one putting those. And it's just like vinyl decals. I don't know if that's still a thing. Back then, digital printing was not a big thing. It was pretty expensive. So vinyl decals was the way to go. So we had a big project, a big, giant project. Not as big as the but it was a big project. And this was the signage and window decals, the hanging signs, everything for this store. Well, it was a local store, but this, by the way, this was back in Mexico because I'm from Mexico, and my little town. And back in my little town, there was this like our own Home Depot before Mexico was also globalized by Home Depot. And we had one that was called Proconsa, and they had like a very strong like branding. Now that I think about it, they were orange, so probably they were copying Home Depot. Anyway, a lot of orange. Everything was orange and white and black. So it was kind of like Halloween, but with hardware store. So we had this big, they were opening a new store, so I had to prepare everything, you know? Like as a designer, I actually had to put it together in the vinyls and stuff, and then cut it down. And I used to study back then too, so I used to like do this in the afternoon and also at night, and then prepare everything so the next people in the morning, next day, could just like do all the production stuff, put in all the signs. So, oh, by the way, look at that monitor. That's how old this is. So, and I prepped everything and just again, ready for the next people. I was really proud of everything. This is like a giant project. Again, I was thinking my boss is going to be very proud that I left everything ready. So next day, everything was quiet. And usually just like when it's a production place and a print place like this, everyone is moving, is putting stuff on signs, and there was no movement, and everything that I was done is just still there. So it was a little bit eerie. So I was a little confused what was going on until like my boss shouts at me, like from far away, looks at me like, Pablo! And he was like very confused, very afraid. It was just like, what happened here, you know? And one of the most common mistakes that I will make is just like getting the size wrong. Just like, oh, crap, probably instead of meters, it was supposed to be feet. Something like that, and then everything is like sucks. So I thought it was that, and there was like, I don't know, what's going on? I was very confused, and it's just like, look at that. I was like, look at what? I didn't get it. So the craziest question is just like, what color is it? And I was like, well, it's Proconsa, and I know their branding, it's orange. So I was like, well, it's orange, of course. And he was like, no, it's green, dude. It's like, it's green, what the hell? I was like, what? This moment, I didn't understand. I thought this person is crazy. What I was seeing there on the table was totally orange for me, and he was saying it's green. I was like, dude, I don't know what you're saying, but even just look at it on the monitor. Like, look. And he was like, no, dude, that's green too. And that's how I found out that I was colorblind. And after that, I was like, oh shit, damn, I'm the designer. By the way, they were pretty cool about it. They didn't fire me. Back then, they would have been like, dude, you cannot be a designer. Get out of here. But yeah, they just like, they had to be checking everything that I do after that. Like, I became very self-aware. Like, you will still find me making these questions. Like, is the water blue? And they were just like, no. So it's not blue, right? I did put it, it's supposed to be pink in the drawing, right? For me, it's blue. Anyway, I just have to paint by numbers now. Anyway, now I actually consider that as a designer, I consider it a superpower. It's something that, like, I don't know, if it looks good to me, that means it will have enough enough contrast ratio, and it will be more accessible for other people, because other people that have colorblindness will be able to read it too, if I'm able to read it. So now I see it that way, right? So that actually also made me be more, I don't know, in a selfish way, be more aware of this, and also be more concerned about like web accessibility. And yes, so I'm being selfish, and I just want you to create stuff that looks better for me, okay? But that's probably the root cause of all this, my colorblindness, and then that made me really care about this. So story time is over. Let's actually look at today's menu. And today we're going to be just going over 7 easy to implement guidelines. We're going to go over, the guidelines are the third step. First, the myth, the why even care about this, some guidelines, and then at the end, some takeaways. So just some practical tips, and hopefully I'll just keep it quick. I know this can get a little bit dense when you start talking about code and structure and all that stuff. But I'm going to be also talking mostly about the design part of it, and not really on the code part of it. And I want you, like, at the end of this, the goal of this is that hopefully you think that designing for accessibility is not that hard, or at least it's not that hard, and you can get started, and hopefully you feel inspired to get done. And actually, I would love for you to say with me, designing for accessibility is not that hard. Now you. right? I'm so proud of you. Now say it again. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so let's start with this myth. And there's this myth that design for accessibility, and some misconceptions. And usually is that, hey, it's so hard. We gotta move quick. We got no money. We gotta do it quick. There's no time. And there's little people to do this. Accessibility is boring. It's ugly. It's expensive. I use Comic Sans because I hope that reflects how much I value those opinions. To be honest, I used to think this too. I used to think like, hey, accessibility, that sounds like boring. It sounds like it sounds like a lot of work. And once you start checking all the stuff that is out there, the Wcag website, it's the most boring place in the world. So I understand that feeling. But I think it's not just that, but it's also one of the most difficult parts that I have found is that when trying to fix something to be more accessible, you're also not just fighting the things that you do, but also you're fighting culture, and sometimes even fighting like people. And usually it's like people that says that there's no resources. Product will tell you there's no resources. Other designers too that will tell you like, hey, they will probably get too attached to their nice shades of color and their tiny fonts. And sometimes leadership, all the way to the top, they just don't understand why. And it's not, I don't think that people are bad or they just don't want to do it. It's just like they don't understand why it's even necessary. But, and I think that once you frame this problem as a workflow problem, then it starts changing the mentality of it. And accessibility is just part of your process. There's a part of your workflow, and meeting the requirements for accessibility doesn't really add any extra features or any extra content, and therefore the additional cost and effort should be minimal. So that's the thinking behind it. I would love to, let's talk about why. And I think that as designers, we have the power and responsibility to make sure that everyone has access, regardless of ability, situation, context. And just, we must design products that provide equal access and opportunity for all people, no matter their capabilities. And the cool thing about this, and it's just, whenever you are designing for accessibility, you will realize that you're not only designing for people with disabilities. The great thing is that when you're making something accessible, you're making a better experience for everyone. And this is a huge advantage. And I have an example. It's a very simple example, but probably something that most of us will relate. This is an example of just an accessibility ramp. An accessibility ramp which was originally designed for people using a wheelchair to be able to access sidewalks. But now accessibility ramps can be used for other people, like a dad with a stroller or a bike rider, or also like people in scooters. Don't ride them on the sidewalk, please. Oh, wow, okay. That's how mad I am. So that's one of the advantages. But also, let's take a look at some numbers. And in the numbers, I think they're actually pretty outstanding. And there are over 56 million people in the United States alone that have a disability. And that's over 1 billion people worldwide. And now, if we talk about specifically about designing perceivable web design that will affect people with low vision or blindness, we can also see that it is one of the top 10 conditions among adults 18 and plus. So this is not really an edge case. This is not just a small percentage of people. There's a lot of people that you will make your content more accessible. And that's where the information is coming from. And if we get to try to sympathize or empathize with people that suffer these kind of problems, you start realizing that people with low vision and the ability to read, drive, prepare meals, all these things that we really take for granted. And it also results in social isolation, family stress, and I'm not trying to make you feel sorry for them. They wouldn't want you to feel, I wouldn't want you to feel sorry for me. But it's more just aware and also maybe just a little guilty, just hopefully. No, just kidding. Again, it's just to build that empathy, and I just want to get hopefully to your hearts. But let's say that you're a psychopath and you just don't care about people. And I can understand that, you just have no empathy. That thing doesn't exist. You don't understand. There's no feelings here. There's nothing here. But you do care about money, that's your thing. So let's say that, okay? Well, there's also a strong business case for accessibility. And, okay, when you design an accessible web, studies show that accessible websites have better search results. They reach a bigger audience. They are SEO friendly. Who doesn't love some SEO friendly websites? They have faster downloads, and they encourage good coding practices. And again, more accessible sites are also more usable sites, always. And also, you will probably be avoiding a lawsuit. In 2017, just only in last year, there were 814 website accessibility lawsuits filed in federal and state courts. And this year, only in the first 6 months until June, there were already 1,053 lawsuits. I don't know how many are there right now. Probably later we'll get that data. But these two pieces of data, just the numbers and then the lawsuits and all the advantages of this, that data alone should convince us of the importance of design for accessibility. And okay, cool. Now, stopping with the numbers and the why, I'm sure you understand it. Let's start with the practical stuff, okay? And just 7 guidelines. I'm gonna go quick. And the thing here is that these 7 guidelines, these 7 tips are really easy to do. They're seriously really easy to do. These 7 guidelines are really, will focus on getting closer to meet AA level on the web content accessibility guidelines. And they usually you want to create content that works on the most commonly used assistive technologies like screen readers, keyboards, screen magnifiers, and speech recognition tools. So first things first, and as designers, you probably heard this, you probably already done it, and we'll be really proud of you, but check your contrast and check your contrast ratio. And the idea is that you want to make sure that there's enough contrast between your text and your background color. That's it, super easy, right? Well, sometimes we just get it wrong. And the thing is that when you want to meet the AA level, you want to have a contrast ratio that goes all the way from 4.5 to 1. This is conformance to level AA. And this guidance is to provide enough contrast so that people with low vision can read your content. So for example, here we have this little button, and it says hello there. Here it's gigantic, but let's imagine that this is just a tiny little thing on your screen. The background here and the text doesn't really meet the contrast ratio. The contrast ratio here between the blue turquoise background and the text is only 2.3. If we wanted to make it all the way to 4.5, we'll have to probably make it a little bit darker and also change the saturation of it. And then, boom, now we have a 4.5 button. And all of this stuff, you can do it on this little thing that we're all done, we used as designers. Here, this line here tells us below that line, white text will conform to the 4.5 to 1 accessibility contrast ratio. So you can see that how on the reds it's a little bit more accessible. The stuff that is like really hard to have a good contrast ratio is oranges and greens. Those two colors are really hard with text. I don't know why. I suppose they're just too bright. And if you put a white text on top of it, it will just like fail. So usually blue is really good. So here you see how the curve, as soon as we get closer to the greens, it starts going down. But if we keep it like on the purples, blues, I suppose that's where the purples and blues are. It's a little more accessible. So that's probably why so many websites have those colors. Anyway, The ratios become more forgiving with larger and heavier fonts. So for example, here, text that was probably not passing with that color, it does pass if the text is a little bit bolder and a little bit bigger. Makes sense, right? Here's one tool that is just, this is colorable, and it gives you in real time just, you put different colors and you start changing the hues, and it's just telling you the conformance level, if it fails or if it passes. So that's a pretty cool tool. And here, actually, let's test some contrast. Here I have some different examples, and I'm going to pull a really cool app that is called Contrast app. And this little tool here, it allows you to select, it's just like on any app, on any design tool, just selects the text. So for example, let's say that is white text, and then the background color, and then it tells me, all right, it fails. Let's select a different background, and now it does, oh, shit, sorry, fuck. Oh my God, you're not seeing, oh, okay, hold on, let me do this real quick. Okay, no, we got it. Thank you, man. Okay, let's start again. Nothing happened, okay? So here we have this little tool, and you check first, like the first color, the text, and then what is the background? Here it's telling me that it fails. You can see here. If we change it to a different color, then it's passing the AA. Or you're seeing that all my notes here, I'm just reading. Okay, don't look at that. Damn. Also here, for example, this one is going to fail. Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty, but it's just, you know that's not going to pass. Over here, let's test this one. It fails to oranges, I'm telling you. Hold on, it's orange or green? Orange, right? Come on, tell me. Yeah? Okay, mustard here, over here. Yeah, there you go. Okay, anyway, just it's a cool tool that just like, again, the whole idea here is designing for accessibility is not that hard. There are tools like this that help you do this stuff. Okay, I'm going to go back, and I'm going to have to put this to arrangement, not mirror display, so I can read my notes. No, I'm not reading notes. I have everything memorized. Okay, cool. So let's, another really cool, this one was just out. It's called Color Box by Lyft. And it's pretty cool because all the colors that it's giving you here are actually conformance level AA. And you can change the hue, you can say where does it start, where does it end. I really recommend this tool because it just creates a color palette there too. And it's amazing, you can export it and just use it. I'm going to put some links at the end. And next thing is, next guideline is just don't just use color. Okay, we know now what kind of colors we want to use, but sometimes color is not enough. And the idea is that when you're communicating something that is important, showing an action or prompting a response, only using color as a visual cue might not be as good. So people with low visual acuity or color blindness, like me, will have a hard time understanding your content. So here's some examples of two of the best design apps out there. I really admire what they're doing. This is Airbnb and Spotify, but even they made a couple of mistakes there on their navigation. Here, for someone that has low vision or color blindness, it's really hard to know which menu is selected. For me, for the longest time, I didn't know if it was shuffle or if it was repeat. I had to like click it over and over. Like actually I had to do a hack where it's like if that one appears, then I know that the next one is going to be inactive, and then the other one is the actual repeat one. That's how I knew that I was selecting that thing. They actually fixed this, so now on Spotify you will see a little dot there. So that's a little applause for them. It took them some time to do that, but that just little detail, that helps me a lot. Now I know people that have a low vision and have color blindness, they will understand what is going on there just by that little dot. It's just a small indicator. So yeah, so try to use indicators and on anything, and for example, text labels. So if you want to show there's an error on something that you're inputting, don't just show color. There, again, for someone with color blindness or low vision, they will not understand that that label is red, which I suppose is red, right? A very easy thing to do is just add in an icon or add in an emoji. They're cool, right? And if you want to go a little bit further away, just add a label and just say required. And we will really be grateful for this. Another thing is on text on paragraphs. Again, here I know that there's a link. I don't remember where I put it, but I know there's a link somewhere there. And that's just because it's color, and someone with color blindness will not be able to see that. But if you just put an underline, I know underlines